If you ever see a cheap off-grid Airbnb in the middle of nowhere, don't book it. Because 1 month ago, my friends and I made that mistake. We thought we found the perfect desert escape. We didn't know we were walking into a place something else already considered home. My friends and I had taken trips together for years. We weren't experts at surviving the outdoors, but we always found a way to have fun. So when it was my turn to pick the spot, I wanted something unforgettable. I found an off-grid glass cabin deep in the high badlands. The woman on the phone sounded strangely relieved when I booked it, like she wasn't happy to have a guest. She was happy someone finally agreed to come. I ignored it. Dave packed his grill, Mark brought a telescope, and Pete, our non-outdoorsy friend, tagged along. The cabin looked perfect in every possible way. Floor-to-ceiling glass walls, expensive furniture, and a view that stretched for miles. But standing there alone, surrounded by endless desert, I noticed something strange. There were no signs that anyone had been there before us. No tire tracks, no footprints, nothing. It was almost like the cabin had been waiting for us to arrive. Behind the property, a massive wall of jagged black rocks rose like a spine. The only way in or out was a single unpaved dirt trail cutting through the desert brush. While the guys unpacked, I stepped out onto the concrete patio. The sun was dipping, painting the desert in deep purples. But as I stood there, a cold weight settled in my stomach. Apart from Dave fiddling with his grill, there was no sound. If you've been to the desert, you know it's quiet. But it's never this quiet. There was no wind. The air was completely, suffocatingly stagnant. No crickets, no birds, no rustling brush. It felt like the entire landscape was holding its breath. Not because something was nearby, but because something was watching. I tried to shake it off. We ate, drank, and went to bed. But sleeping in a new place always messes with me. I lay in the lofted bedroom, staring through the upper glass panels at the desert. Minutes ticked by. My eyes were finally closing when a shadow shifted against the moonlight on the lower roofline. I froze. I stared at the glass, but everything was still. I forced myself to sleep. Big mistake. 10 minutes later, a muffled, terrified scream shattered the silence. It was Mark, coming from the downstairs bedroom. Dave and I met in the hallway, pure confusion turning into panic. We knocked. No answer. I pushed the door open. Mark was sitting on the edge of his bed, wide-eyed, completely drenched in sweat. He wouldn't turn to look at us. His eyes were glued to the floor-to-ceiling glass wall facing the empty desert. Dave and I turned our heads in unison. Behind me, I heard Dave catch his breath, whispering, "What the hell is that?" At first, I thought it was a person. Then it moved. Strategic pause. And I realized it wasn't anything I had ever seen before. Its body looked wrong, like nature had tried to create something human and failed. Its eyes were too large, its movements were too fast, and the way it watched us felt intelligent. That was the moment I stopped wondering what it was and started wondering, short break, why it had found us. The worst part wasn't that it was outside. The worst part was knowing the only thing between us and that creature was a few inches of glass. We were paralyzed. It felt like an eternity just watching this thing watch us. Then it moved. It didn't run away. It contorted its long body, dropped onto all fours, and began to scale the vertical exterior support beam of the cabin. Despite its size, it climbed with the silent, fluid agility of a spider, dragging itself up onto the flat roof directly above us. Pete came stumbling into the room a second later, asking what the noise was. None of us answered. We just pointed at the ceiling. Thud, thud, thud. We listened to those heavy, deliberate footsteps pace directly over our heads for the next 3 hours. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. We just waited for the glass to shatter. The moment the sun cracked the horizon, the pacing changed. We didn't talk. We didn't clean up. We packed our bags in absolute silence and bolted for the car. We just wanted to hit the highway and never look back. But as I grabbed the handle of the driver's side door, my eyes drifted down to the sandy dirt surrounding the concrete foundation. I was looking for the prints of the thing that climbed the roof. And I found them. Deep, heavy claw marks right in the dirt. But as my eyes followed the trail outward, my blood ran entirely cold, stretching out from the jagged black ridge of rocks, completely circling the entire perimeter of our cabin, were dozens of tracks. At least 10 more identical, separate creatures had descended from the ridge. They had surrounded the entire house while we were inside. I still don't know what those things were, but I know they weren't hunting us that night. They were studying us, waiting for the darkness to return, because that was the only thing that made them leave.